Thank you, everyone. I need to put my reading glasses on so I can do a good introduction. Dr. Sophia is the third-year internal medicine resident at Lankenau Medical Center in Wynwood, Pennsylvania. She grew up in New England, graduated cum laude with Bachelor of Science in Neuroscience from King's College, received her Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine from the University of New England, College of Osteopathic Medicine. She is currently at Lankenau Medical Center, holds positions as internal medicine residency, representative on multiple committees, including Sepsis Committee, Antimicrobial Stewardship Committee, and Infection Prevention Committee. So please give a warm welcome to Dr. Sophia, and she will pronounce her last name. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for having me here. And to kind of follow up on the last speaker that we had, I think the most important way of looking at all of this is before you can help others and have an impact on the world around you, you have to help yourself. So I'm Dr. Sophia Panason. I work over at Lankenau. I've been working on the medical floors in the ICU since the start of this pandemic. And I've been doing a lot of research within COVID and vaccination. So that's the reason that I've been here today. And to kind of highlight some of the points that we were just speaking about over here. We know that minorities are uniquely affected by COVID and by the illnesses that come because of COVID. So I think the most important thing right now is making sure that everyone's as educated as possible. So I hope that if you have any lingering questions about COVID, vaccination, that either I'm able to answer them here in this talk, or I'm able to share with you where you can go to get more information that's actually scientific and educational, okay? So let me make sure I can get this to work. So I have no disclosures, and we're going to quickly talk about COVID, just a brief update, what we know. We're going to talk a little bit about vaccinology in general. We're going to talk about some myths versus some facts about the actual COVID vaccine, and then we're going to talk about some resources and what every single one of you guys can do to save lives around you. So COVID-19, we've known of coronaviruses for years. We discovered coronavirus back in the 60s. It's probably been around since before the 60s. And we knew it caused flu-like symptoms. And then back in 2003, we heard of SARS, right? It became more of an endemic to Asian countries. And then 2012, we heard of MERS, right? These are both because of different coronaviruses. Now we're affected by SARS-CoV-2. So this is another coronavirus that has now become a pandemic and affected us here today. We get COVID-19, coronavirus disease 2019. That's where we are today. So we've known a lot about this virus. So what do we know about actually having an illness? So we know people who have COVID-19, we can say vaccinated or not vaccinated, can have a series of symptoms, right? Cough, fever, chills, body aches, diarrhea. Everybody heard about the loss of taste and the loss of smell. But what I'm more concerned about and what I see on a day-to-day basis working inside the hospitals are the complications. What happens when you can't really handle these symptoms at home and your body is taken over by this virus? So if we go organ by organ, your lung, you're at risk of a horrible pneumonia, you're at risk of ARDS, that puts you on a ventilator. People who don't make it off of a ventilator get stuck with a tracheostomy, right? Your heart, inflammation around the heart muscle, heart failure. I've seen cases of this myself, blood clots. I can't even tell you how many of these cases I've seen, blood clots in the lungs, in the arms, and the legs. Brain can be affected. You can have strokes. You can have what we call encephalopathy or confusion because of this virus. We know your kidneys can be infected, and affected by this, we have an increase of our population who's on dialysis now. And then we know that through the inflammation and the infection, you can damage other organs that lead you at risk of having other infections. And then let's say you survive all of this, well then you're at risk for this long COVID, which we're still learning more about. Constant shortness of breath, constant chronic cough, feelings of fatigue that we don't know how long that lasts. Some say weeks, some say months, but we're still learning more. So you listen on the news or in social media, they say, oh, you know, get a COVID vaccine, what does that mean? You hear mRNA, you hear the words Johnson & Johnson, you hear Moderna, Pfizer, but what does that mean? So let's take a step back about vaccines. Up until I went to medical school, I thought a vaccine was a vaccine. I didn't think that there was anything different between the flu vaccine versus the measles, mumps, and rubella, but there is differences amongst all types. So we have live and activated, subunit, mRNA, viral vector. These are all different types of scientific technology that gets you a vaccine. These are all common vaccines that you've heard of, and probably most of you had as children, right? MMR, measles, mumps, and rubella, varicella. So you don't have chickenpox anymore, polio, so we don't have this community affected by needing the iron lung and this horrible neurological disease, Tdap, right? So God forbid you step on a nail, you don't get tetanus, and you're protecting other people against whooping cough. Influenza, you get a yearly flu vaccine. Pneumococcal vaccine to make sure that as we get older, we don't have pneumonia from pneumococcus. And then that leads us into the coronavirus vaccines. So just to give you an idea about vaccines in general, right? We've had vaccines for decades. Polio vaccination, right? So we had rampant cases of polio back in the 50s. Vaccine was introduced, vaccine was given to the population, huge spike in the cases that we've had. Haemophilus influenzae. So Haemophilus influenzae is a bacteria, and one of the things that it's known most for can cause pneumonia, but in little kids it can cause meningitis, and if you're lucky to live through having meningitis, you have severe complications from it. So again here, we had an incidence that you can see up on our y-axis, and then the moment that we discovered this vaccination, we encouraged it for part of your pediatricians to be given, drop down in H flu. So you're going to hear all the time in the news, well, we have this new mRNA vaccine, or we have a viral vector vaccine, so what does that mean, okay? mRNA vaccine, those are your Moderna and Pfizer. Those are the two that are approved to use in the United States. You have viral vector vaccines. There are currently 2 approved in the entire world, only 1 approved in the United States. So we have Johnson & Johnson. You're going to hear AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca is not approved in the United States right now. mRNA vaccine. So what is this vaccine? So you've probably seen this ball and spike picture all over the internet, all over the news, right? That's your COVID viron, okay? And it has these little spikes on it. Those spikes, once the virus gets into your body, that's how it attaches to receptors and cells within your body. That's what makes it virulent. That's what makes it allowed to cause infection in our body. How do we make those? Well, the virus has little particles. It's almost like a transcription, like an instruction manual. And that instruction manual is what the virus uses to make more of them. So scientists were able to take that instruction manual, make our own copy, put it into an actual vaccine, and then when that's injected into our body, our cell takes that in. Our cells say, oh, what is this instruction manual? They make their own copy of the spike protein. Your body goes, oh, that's totally new, I have no idea what this is. Your body makes these little yellow Y things, antibodies, against the spike protein, okay? It's not the whole COVID viron. It's not the whole COVID particle. It's not the genetic sequence to make a whole COVID viron. It's just to recognize what that spike protein is. So now your body has a ton of these antibodies. So God forbid you get exposed to COVID. COVID comes into your body. You have this whole package of immune cells ready to rock and roll and fight that virus. Viral vector vaccine, a little bit different. So you take another virus we know of, adenovirus. We know it's a virus, it's harmless, and as humans, it doesn't really cause much of a disease. So scientists have found a way. They take the little viron of adenovirus, they take a clipping of that instruction manual to make that spike protein, and they infuse it into the adenovirus. That's shaken up and that's put into your vaccine. Same concept. Goes into your body, your cells pull that into it. Oh, what is this instruction manual? To make more of that spike protein. Your body makes that spike protein, recognizes this isn't part of our human cells. Tons of antibodies are made. That is how you have your protection. So I've heard countless patients. I see people both in the inpatient setting, like I said, the ICU and the floors, and I see people in the outpatient setting. And when I meet my patients that I'm performing primary care with, I get a lot of common questions over and over again. So feel free to shout out if you think it's fact or fiction. These vaccines can give you COVID. Fiction, yes. Why? We just talked about this, right? So all of this stuff, all this crazy stuff behind me is everything that goes into making a COVID viral, okay? The vaccine is a copy of that green piece. That's all it is. It is a copy of the mRNA, the messenger RNA, that they go and they put into the vaccine. It's not for the whole virus, it's just for the spike protein, that's all. So there's no way you can physiologically get COVID after you get the vaccine. Not saying you can't be exposed to COVID, but the vaccine itself cannot give you COVID. It cannot become part of your own genetic material to make COVID. All right, myth or truth, the vaccine technology is brand new. Myth, nice. Let's go through the mRNA timeline, right? I get this from a lot of my patients. But it's so new and it happened so quickly and we don't have a lot of data and everything happened in a year. 1960s, we figured out what mRNA was. 1970s, we figured out how it moves within our body. The 1980s, we were able to make mRNA, our own mRNA in a lab. In the 1990s, we thought, wow, how could we use this to be beneficial? We started experimenting at how to make vaccines, how to help with cancer, and that brought us to 2017, before the pandemic, where in other countries they said, okay, let's try using this as a vaccine. They used it for melanoma, so they were trying to prevent skin cancer in Germany, but before the pandemic, Moderna thought, hey, maybe we can try to make a couple different vaccines with this mRNA technology. So it's been around for decades before COVID happened. We knew the technology. We had the means to make it. So a year, easy time to do it in 2021. Viral vector, 70s. We were able to engineer this process of taking virus, a piece of a virus that's harmless, and use it to transport material. We started in 2014 all the way through 2019 in making a vaccine for Ebola with this same exact technology. This vaccine was actually approved to be used, but luckily we didn't have an Ebola outbreak here in America, but it was used frequently in Africa. So we have studies, tons of clinical studies and data, to know that viral vector vaccines are safe and effective. So that brings us to 2020, right? 30, 50 years later, we have a COVID-19 pandemic. We have this technology already laid out, and we used it, knowing what we know about COVID, to make a vaccine. All right, so real or fake news? The FDA skipped standard safety checkpoints so the vaccine could be quickly manufactured. Fake news, right. So everyone, again, that I see in my practice, but it happened so quickly, they must have skipped a couple steps here and there. There's no way they could have done everything that they needed to. Absolutely not. It's because we have so many people, we have so much technology, we have means of tracking who gets what and what happens, that we were able to go through the same exact standardized steps to get this vaccine. So before and after, we have means of following information. So for those of you who have gotten the vaccine, when you are vaccinated, you're given the option to sign up for Be Safe. So that's a government tracker that pushes through to the FDA, where you can report, oh my gosh, day 2, I had a horrible rash. And all of that information goes to the FDA to then report back to these people making studies. So, like I said before, what the most important thing is that you guys can do for yourself is educate yourself and know how you can best protect yourself, because by protecting yourself, you can then protect others and help others. So to echo on the amazing points that were made before me, staying healthy is one of the easiest and best things that you can do. Eating healthy, staying active, exercising, and making sure that you avoid cigarettes in any form whatsoever, and then doing your best to stay educated, right? Coming to these talks, and I'm going to show you a list of resources that you can use that are updated frequently, so you're staying up to date with new, good clinical material. And then lastly, getting vaccinated. We know vaccines work. We know this vaccine works. We know that it has good data, it's safe and effective, and it can save lives. So I've talked about where can we get info. two best places, in my opinion and in the opinion of a lot of people that I work with. You go to your state Department of Health. It'll tell you what the incidence is in the area of current infections and exposures. It'll tell you where you can get tested, where vaccines are available to you. Those are all the wheres and the hows for the area around you. Now I know the CDC has been, a hot topic in the social media world, but I heard there was a question earlier today. What's in the vaccine? I don't know what's in the vaccine. You can figure out very easily what's in the vaccine. So you go to the CDC site, and they have a whole section on vaccines. You can click each one. The Moderna mRNA vaccine. I think it's got 9 different ingredients in it. It explains everything that's in it. The fats that they use, the salts that they use to keep the actual vaccine alive. It lists it all out in there, so you know exactly what's in each vaccine. There's a link to every study. You could read the actual clinical study that had thousands of people in it. You can read the data right then and there. So that CDC site has a lot of good raw data, and that's updated on the frequent. And then ask your doctor, right? So following up with primary care and being preventative is one of the biggest and best things that you can do for yourself. And we have access to a lot of medical journals that update frequently. The Infectious Disease Society for America, every 2 weeks they're updating what they know about prophylaxis, pre-treatment, post-treatment, what they know about long COVID, acute illness, vaccination. They have constant updated information, and that's our jobs to make sure that we're staying up to date to do the best for you. So you follow with a primary care physician. There you go, definitely ask your doctor for any other lingering questions you have. So like I said, we, physicians, nurse practitioners, mid-levels, we have our own resources. And all of these here, we have access to that are updated on the frequent with studied clinical medicine where we're able to get all of our information. And it's our job, and we took an oath to make sure that we do no harm and we do our best to protect and look out for the wellness of our patients. So this is me with my original shot and my booster. Thank you so much for letting me talk today, and I will be around for questions and helping with resources if anybody would like. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was terrific. That's definitely the facts, more facts than I've seen. I don't know about the rest of you, so really grateful, and I'm glad we're having a documentary produced about the speeches and this event. Our next speaker, unless an email came in with her Zoom, we do not have access to the Zoom. So at this point, I'm not sure we will have our last speaker. So please enjoy the music, enjoy the art activities and the artists. And as Dr. Sophia said, if you have questions, please feel free to ask her or anyone else who is here. And I thank you so much for coming.